Hey everybody, day 52 of the vlog. Today in school we finally got to do that sexual assault awareness workshop with our students, and so every second period class was extended 45 minutes to be able to go through a presentation on what consent is, what assault is, and give some time for students to have some discussion around that. And I have sophomores, and so we dove into it, and I had quite a few students from other classes that had asked if they could come and sit in to my class during that presentation. And I think that's a really important aspect, is that anytime you're having these conversations, that students in the room need to feel comfortable. And so if that's with going to another teacher or allowing extra students to come into your room, whatever it may be, I think that's necessary and good. We had some good questions. I think what students a lot of times get caught up on is this idea of like, well, you know, so I have to ask, like, you have to ask for everything. Like, isn't that kind of weird to be like, can I, like, to say, can I kiss you? And like, can I use tongue? Can I put my hand on your leg? Like, like, do I just keep asking these questions? And I think that's a lot of people get kind of put into that box when they're talking about consent. Like, well, consent's not sexy, and it's really difficult to ask that, and you're going to sound lame, and don't girls want guys to take charge? And part of that is like still part of that rape culture that we teach young men, that like girls don't really want sex, and so they need to be persuaded, and so you're the one who has got to kind of show them that. And that's troubling, and we got to end that. Both everybody enjoys sex. It's part of our nature. It's part of unless you're asexual, people enjoy that. And so we got to stop teaching that guys need to be the aggressors or pursuers of that. And so we kind of talked about that situation of like, okay, well, how do you know that you have consent? How do you know, without saying the words, can I do this, that you can do it? And so we talked about, and went through scenarios of, what does it look like when somebody is giving consent, and what does it look like when they're doing it? And kind of the rule of thumb that I said for this, my students, was, you want to make sure that you have 100% surety and no doubt whatsoever in your mind that whatever you're doing is wanted by whoever you're doing it with, and that you're both enjoying it. And so if at any point you see any type of signal of discomfort, and we talked about that in class of what that might look like, hesitation and pulling away, looking away, tears in the eyes, whatever it may be, being really quiet and non-responsive, like all of those can be signs that the person you're with is no longer comfortable. And it may come quickly. You may be engaging in something, and then you start to progress to the next step, and then those signs can come on rather quickly. And so, what I talked about with my students was, as soon as it gets to that point that you no longer are 100% certain that they're into it, then you need to move to verbal. Is this okay? Are you okay? Like, do you want to keep going? Things like that, to be able to go through that and have that conversation with their partners. Because I think that's a big hang up for a lot of the students based on the conversations we had, is, like, how do I ask and get consent without sounding lame, or without killing the mood and things like that? And it's pretty natural, and I think we all recognize those signs of when somebody's comfortable and when they're not. And so we built upon that to kind of have that conversation and to see what it looks like in the real world. So I really hope that this helps in Bellevue High School build a culture of consent, and that we start to see some progress, in these areas. Something's got to change, and right now I think we are at a watershed moment in our history. Our administrator said that today, that we're in this watershed moment where people are coming forward and letting their stories be known, and it is on America now to choose what direction do we move. Do we move to where this type of behavior is unacceptable and has consequences, or do we continue to perpetuate a rape culture that rewards perpetuators of sexual violence and defames and traumatizes its victims or survivors? So we'll see you next time, and hope you are having these conversations in your school.